Good day, everybody, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Before I get started, just let me restate the purpose of today's session, namely that the applications running on your ClearPath Forward environment, which are providing the system of record for your business, they're really as relevant today as they've ever been. Now, there's really no question that new technology just continues to evolve. It continues to emerge across the entire application lifecycle. And the most obvious case in point being the various cloud offerings and the associated application architectures across what's known as that DevOps paradigm. Now, the most notable of all of these are really the development and the deployment of microservices and cloud native architectures. And these are targeting your systems of engagement in your line of business. Now today, what we'd like to share with you guys is really how your current ClearPath applications can interoperate as well as collaborate with these microservices-based systems of engagement, not only on a call-in basis, but also on a call-out basis. Now, in doing so, we will reassure you that your investment in your ClearPath applications and systems, they've been well placed and that they can continue to collaborate and interoperate with all the latest paradigms going on today. All right, so moving to the next slide. All right, so this webinar will introduce you to a couple of sets of technologies that really help support your digital transformation initiatives. Now you'll see that I just recently launched a poll, and the purpose of this poll is really to gauge your current usage of microservices in your various environments. What I'm asking you to do is just select your response and then click submit. It's a two-step process. We need you to select the answer and then click submit. We're not able to see your results or your answers until you click submit there. So I'll give you another few seconds just to do that. Very good. We're starting to see some results come in here. Okay, now while I wait for these answers to aggregate here, I'll cover the agenda for today. We'll briefly review the market drivers behind the transition to digital, as well as the enabling role of this technology called microservices. We'll then introduce the technologies, ClearPath Forward ePortal, as well as ClearPath AIS, also known as Application Integration Services. And these are really the Unisys enablers which support your ClearPath applications participation in these new and dynamic systems of engagement. And then we'll close with questions and answers, and we encourage you to submit any questions using the Q&A tab found at the bottom of your Zoom window. And we'll do our best to answer those not only during, but also at the conclusion of the session today. Finally, just a last note, as you would expect, we offer an extensive range of solutions to integrate your applications with Java and .NET and message queuing and a host of other technologies. And we're really committed to investing and modernizing all of our technologies. So if you are using some of those other technologies, don't feel left out. But today we will focus on ePortal and AIS. So at this point now, I'll close the poll and I will hand the presentation over to Anil.
Thanks, Bradley. Welcome everyone to this webinar today on the digital transformation. We have been working quite hard for the last few months, and today we are proud to showcase what we have developed over the last 6 months for our ePortal and AIS, and subsequently additional services on the top of these products. Next slide. All right. So I'll spend a minute here on these interesting times right now. There are a lot of challenging times right now for uh, organizations facing challenges externally as well as internally, and we have to be there at the forefront, providing support or making sure that we are able to facilitate companies and the customers in these changing times. So I have clubbed or just bucketed the challenges we face right now in three main columns here. Now, there is a constant need for collaboration. There is this need within organizations and outside of it. We have business goals changing day in, day out, and we need to make sure that we are able to depend on various stakeholders within the organization or outside of it for our business needs. So we as an IT need to make sure that we are facilitating this collaboration between the teams and the companies. Now, changing dynamics is a very interesting point here. The old business models become irrelevant in just a moment of months. With the COVID-19, we can see all of the businesses have some things changed here and there. Now, what's the solution for it? We either need to change with the times and innovate, or we perish. Now, the goal is that we provide the best value to the customers and align their business metrics towards profitability. Now, this brings me to the digital demands. Now, uh, the overall needs of the end user of the businesses are changing rapidly. The new breed of end users are more mature, and their requirements are also more complex. They expect consistent experience across all the systems, and that's like the bare minimum these days. So how do we take care of these challenges along with the current systems that we have and make sure that all of these are aligned together? All right. So before I delve deeper, I'll spend few minutes on how digital transformation fits into the enterprise architectures. Now, on the left here, we have a core ClearPath Forward system, which, with the digital transformation happening, needs to be used in new and different ways, and it has to stay relevant in the current times and going forward also. Now, there is a traditional setup that we are having right here. ClearPath Forward hosts our system of records. System of records are our business logic. We want to make sure that they are always secure. Now, the end users and clients will interact with the system of records through this column called system of engagements that's there on the right side. And now these can be mobile phones, web services, ATMs, point of sales, anything that helps them to interact with here. Now, the arrows here show that we use a point-to-point connection between the external interfaces, but at the end we need to understand that at the end it's still a monolithic application. So once we make changes anywhere, we have to make sure that everything works properly. Okay, now this brings me to how the transformation keeps on continuing. Now, as the collaboration, or as the systems started to interact with the external devices, they did not need to do it directly. So in a way, there was a need to bring this new gateway in between, which is called the system of integration, or any kind of an enterprise service bus. Now, they help in the interaction with the cloud services, which I have called out in the bottom as well. Now, some of our own products, which are shown in the box on the left, help with the transaction connectors that we see, and then they help you interact through these system service buses. Now, all of this has opened up new use cases to us. So we don't have to expose application services as individual transactions now, but they can be used as services or microservices. And in case there is a need to share some data also, that can be done through a speed layer, which I'm calling as system of reference or the source of truth. Now, this is also then made available to the outside world as a RESTful service. and it can just interact with the other system of records, not just the ClearPath systems that we have. So what's the bottom line here? Now, enterprise architectures have kept evolving, and I'm sure they will keep on evolving as well. So newer standards have to be brought in the environments as per the changes in the technology. We have seen that single point-to-point interfaces have been replaced by messaging and service bus technologies. Monolithic applications of the past are getting refactored, changed, or they are being wrapped around the service interfaces. These are interestingly adding some additional flexibility and functionality on top of it. Now, one thing that we need to be aware is that all of these can be done without much changes in the application. So with the presence of applications that we already have, we can just help in enabling a service architecture and start interaction as with opening up the services or a microservices. I will spend a moment here on the monolithic legacy architectures. Now they served a purpose. The one on the left that I am showing now, the components here are interconnected and interdependent on each other. The product in itself was self-contained. Each component has a presence, and in order there is a dependency on each of these components for each of the customers' requirement. It had advantages of its own. It was simple to deploy. We just needed a simple database, and data could be generated and sent back to the customer. It was simple to scale, and it still is simple to scale in a way that you just keep multiple copies behind a load balancer, and just that's how you could do it. However, there are some drawbacks to this. Now, that's what I'm trying to pinpoint here. Now, as the technology standards change, it's very difficult to reuse the components, and rewrite of code is a very huge investment. So as they grow in scale, and for any new developer, it becomes quite an intimidating task to keep on working on these. And in this continuously delivery model, a small change in the application would mean increased build times, and we have to redeploy everything. So what's the solution, or what's one of the solutions? So that brings me to the microservices architecture. Now, this is just I've spent, because based on the interesting results from the poll, I will just spend some time on what we understand about microservices, and there can be different definitions about it. Now, here the services are loosely coupled and organized around a single business capability. They are in general a small piece or a chunk of code, and the focus here is just one single business service. It is in a way that service is designed in such a way that it focuses on a business goal, or it serves some value to that business. Now, also we need to understand that these services can be, and this is a very important point, that these services can be deployed independently of each other. So we don't need to bring down the whole application. We just need to identify which are the most used ones or the most important services for us, and just scale those independently. There are few advantages. That's why we are focusing on this area. Now, the services now in a system are decoupled from one another, which is contrary to what was there in the monolithic architecture. Application as a whole can be built or altered, scaled easily. It leads to savings for the resources as well as for the CIOs. They are independent components which we can easily replace and upgrade in a way that you just can keep working on some of the other aspects, and some services are getting replaced. They just focus on a single capability or a business requirement. We can use them and track the services which are adding the most value to our business, and then spend the budget accordingly. The interesting things are around agility and autonomy. So they support agile development. We can easily just proof point any concept that we have, develop it, discard in case we don't get traction, and redevelop again. So all of these things add up in the current environments when we need to be nimble enough. Now I'll start talking about what is our digital transformation and how are we positioning our products accordingly. So We have through our portfolio of ePortal, AIS, and along with our ClearPath services, which my colleagues will talk in the next few minutes, we are trying to add value to your digital transformation journey. Now, here are a few relevant use cases that each of our customers can easily empathize with. So all of our customers or all of us want to have a or to create a secure, reliable digital business process. So challenges around security and availability. With either ePortal or AIS, we allow your applications and data to collaborate with microservices, event-driven system of engagements, which I showed in the earlier slides, or any cloud-based apps. And the good thing is that the applications and data will always stay protected, and they can still go out and interact with new environments and new business processes. So in a way, these can add up to the value while keeping the security in place. One most important thing is that they can be undertaken in an evolutionary manner. So we not all the business or the organization is exposed to undue risk or any vulnerabilities in security. Now, coming to the second use case that we have identified, that's around how do we integrate ClearPath Forward and external assets efficiently. So now integrating these or managing complex interactions across our business partners or technologies is very tricky. There are dependencies either inside or outside of the network, some kind of regulatory requirements. So either ePortal or AIS can help to expose the applications and more importantly, transactions at service. So this also provides an ability to access you the external services in a way that you are able to integrate with microservice environments easily. The last two use cases that we have identified, the third one is around reuse of existing assets. This is an interesting one because with technology and priorities changing rapidly, we also want to make sure that the current investments that we have made, they stay relevant and we don't have to write off any current investment. This is a very important point for any CIO. Now, with either ePortal or AI solution, will allow you to transform without any massive financial risks involved. Just you can repurpose your existing assets, as we will show in the coming slides how we are doing it through some use cases. And the last point or the last use case we have identified is around improvement of the end user experience. Now, as I mentioned a little earlier, today's users are more mature and evolved. They expect a seamless interface everywhere. And the way to showcase our individuality is through a experience which is just different from all the others. Now, with either of these solutions, you can craft an innovative experience that our users will expect, end users, I mean, and will be able to deliver a consistent interface across all the touch points, all the devices.
No, how can clients delineate between using ePortal and AIS?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's my next slide. So probably there must be some questions right now. Okay, you have these two solutions. So which one should we probably go for? I'll try to help a little bit as to what should we go for. And so I'll focus on ePortal and then talk a little bit on AIS as well. And then my colleague Thanga will later talk about it in detail. So use ePortal to integrate applications and data with external business processes wherever you need to generate new solutions for your microservices environment or for anything which is targeting web and mobile. Now, one thing about ePortal is that it will do it with minimal changes to the application. So if you go ahead with ePortal, the following should be the points which will help you make a decision. Now, the services that we invoke, if they are robust and complex in nature, so then ePortal should be the solution that fits in the scenario. If there is something around simplicity and automation, we need to make sure that ePortal is the one for you, because there is a level of automation in ePortal, and I'll talk in the coming slides about the point and click solution that we have, how simple it is to deploy as services. If there is a requirement for enterprise requirements like scalability and availability, then ePortal is a go-to solution. And finally, if the interaction between services is more, you have more than one service, or you have a number of services involved, just go with the ePortal. Coming to the AIS, which is Application Integration Services, it can help you develop cross-platform applications which blend easily the ClearPath Forward attributes along with the familiarity of the Microsoft Windows. Now, one feature or the advantages of AIS is that the services are easy and they are intuitive to use, as well as setup is also simple. If your concern is around the footprint, the services or the advantage of AIS is it has a very low footprint and the learning curve is also less. AIS provides flexibility with custom .NET development, and also the ramp up of services is another feature in a very short time is what also appeals to our customers. We'll cover both of these products in detail in the coming slides. This was just to give you a brief what should be our focus if these are our requirements. So I'll cover a little bit about ePortal now. And so ePortal is now available in 4 different variants. So we have a business, which is an entry-level system, which was specifically meant for clients who just want to try out features in a small IT setup and they have just limited resources. Now this variant is non-scalable, non-redundant. It's just a simple product if a customer wants to try for integration or modernization, which it used to do in the past. Now the target customers are, as I said, customers who have very simple use cases. We have this now available as an appliance and as well as a software edition, which can be just used on an virtualized infrastructure of your choice. As I mentioned, ePortal Enterprise, on the other hand, it just provides you some additional features like high availability and scalability. Now it's meant for customers whose needs are enterprise class features. It gives high level of SLAs and higher level of performance, which is expected from an enterprise product. It also has a similar variant in functionality and features, which we call as Enterprise Software Edition. All of these 4 products are right now available. Okay, now how has the role of ePortal changed over the past? Now, when ePortal started, it was used primarily to open up our mainframe screens. Now, the one good use case it had, and it did it very well, was to modernize the green screens. And this was in time with the growth of mobile devices, tablets, and as such, it was a good fit for our customers then. And with the evolution of users and newer complexities coming, this product kept on iterating and evolving. Along the line, we added a software edition, which just gave our customers the choice to choose whatever they want to do. So they just could utilize their current infrastructure. They already had any virtualization, just go ahead and apply the software edition on top of it. Now the one on the right is the most interesting part. So the product as such has now evolved, and it has a very good fit in the environment as an integration tool. Now we saw in the earlier slides how the customer environments are additive in nature. So some of our customers may still have some use cases on green screens, whilst others have lapped up some transactional interfaces or enterprise service buses. Now, one good thing is that at each of these stages, you can use ePortal as a solution to start interacting with the services. And we also need to just call out this point that you open up to microservices with minimal changes required in the environment, which Bradley also mentioned in the earlier part, and you can just get started wherever you are. Now I'll talk about the most recent feature that we delivered, which is the Outbound Web Services. So with the Outbound Web Services, which we just released with 10.0, we kind of completed the feature set around inbound and outbound. Now this can allow you to easily call out from an OS 2200 and MCP application to any third-party external services. So as I mentioned, we have a point-and-click solution which needs a minimal intervention on your part. ePortal will provide a way for COBOL applications to just call out to the external REST services, and this will be through a standard ePortal runtime infrastructure involved. Now, the goal that when we started designing this product was that ePortal should help in the generation of the end-to-end solution. Now, the boxes at the bottom of the slide show what the role of ePortal is in each step. So ePortal will help in importing the schema artifacts, will generate a service, and finally help in deployment and management of these services. So in a way, delivers on its promise of end-to-end solution delivery. ClearPath then just needs to call out to that service. So this just allows to call an external RESTful web service from a COBOL application using an ePortal runtime. Very simple to get started on this. I have a small example here of a use case as to what how the overall interaction happens. Very simple example. I'll just try to rush through it. So here I'm covering a use case for the financial services industry. Now this industry has some characteristics of its own. They face stringent regulations. They need to have accuracy, consistency, and availability of the client's financial data. Also, there is this need for protecting the assets, and the customer data needs to be secure. Now, in this example, what we are trying to showcase that MCP system that has our system of records wants to make a call to ClearPath Forward proxy service in the middle and wants to check the loan eligibility for a particular customer. So we are trying to reach out to check the current credit score of any of the customers, and this can be through any Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax, which provide us all the customer credit worthiness. Now, for so these numericals with the arrows, they signify what is the process happening. So for the point number 1, we will use the existing transactions and the security to access the ClearPath application forward. The way to do it is that COBOL application will connect through the HTTP protocol here, and then a COBOL payload is sent across. In the ePortal outbound proxy service, first of all, we'll receive the COBOL payload. ePortal has a mechanism to unpack it. It just works on it and then repackages it as a JSON. Now, between the 2A and 2AA, we use a REST interface, and ePortal just reaches the REST API through an API gateway, or it can be a direct call as shown in 2B. Now, this slide is just the extension of the earlier slide, showing the communication back once the service request grants the data that we want. Now, once the finance record REST API sends back the response, and we are calling the response through 3A, it sends the COBOL payload back. ePortal has to process the response received. It, as we said, it has a mechanism to extract the data, and there is logic in place to put it back to MCP and OS 2200 through point number 4. That's so simplistic example how we have been able to accomplish outbound services with the ePortal. Now I'll move on to the inbound, which we had already in the product. So it has ePortal has a big role in inbound as well. It will help you in generating the artifacts as well as the programmable code for a solution that needs to be deployed. First of all, ePortal, so the role of ePortal here is shown in the box. First of all, it will capture the assets of your host application. So there are some inbuilt wizards for that. And these assets can be terminal applications, screen scraping applications, forms libraries, or COBOL source codes. So we have this orchestration within ePortal, which is a visual process where you can just drag and drop and create new flows as well as new business logic as per your requirement. Now, once the orchestration is done, we expose them as web services. We take the view models and build services on top of it. Very simple and intuitive process. And I'll just give a small example, very simple example, what we do in case it's an inbound call. Now, if there is a need for an inbound call from an external third party, let's say that's an third party interest rate service that wants to call to a ClearPath system. So this service has the interest rates for the mortgages of a particular country. Now the external mortgage service will derive the current day-to-day rate of interest decided by the central bank of that country. So this service just wants to confirm that the current outstanding on the loan of a customer, which is stored in the ClearPath loan info system on the right, and based on the logic or the business, it can compile a list of eligible customers and use that to sell them a new loan or some additional products. Again, the request 1A is a REST communication here between an ePortal and a third-party external system. The ePortal REST service will model the data in the form which is usable and relevant for the ClearPath host. The interaction at point number 2 is a socket communication where payload is just sent to MCP or OS 2200 from ePortal. Very simple. Now, if we look at, this is just the continuation from the earlier flow. Now, again, once the request is sent back from the ClearPath loan info system, we use a socket communication, and ePortal REST service puts the data received in a ready usable format for the third party external system. And it goes through the API gateway and REST interfaces back to the third party where they can just work on it and put it in a format which they are relevant for them. I have a set of collaterals that we have. So we have an updated executive brief and product information sheet, which calls out all the new value we bring with the support for outbound services. We have some sample codes, and the software release SRA has all the details about the outbound services that we have. So very, very good product that we have been able to get, and I'm proud to present what we have done today. That's all I have. Back to you, Bradley.
Thank you, Anil. And we will transition to our next speaker, Thanga. Before we do so, I'm going to just quickly launch another poll. Similar to the last experience, I ask that you select your response and then click submit so that we can see an aggregate of all your responses. So while we wait for those results to come in, Thanga, why don't we dive into AIS?
Sure. Thank you, Bradley. Good morning, good evening to all. Thanks for joining this webinar. Hey, Anil, thanks for the excellent overview on the microservices and on the ePortal overview as well. So continuing on what Anil mentioned, so we are looking at 4 key use cases. The primary one being the new business process integration. As the market changes, as the regulatory changes, we are looking at how ClearPath systems can be integrated with other third-party systems. So integration plays a key role, and we want to do that in a very secure way. And most important, we want to do with the minimal impact to the ClearPath applications and leverage as many assets as possible in the ClearPath environment. And we did see Anil talking about the ePortal product. He talked about a slide. He said, where ePortal could be used. If you're looking at a point and click and auto generation, and looking at some of the other capabilities that he talked about. So where does AIS really come in? So AIS really comes in, as a custom development environment, wherein it provides a great flexibility. It gives a very low software footprint, and it is a very easy to use tool. So with that, I'll get started. So, AIS is a product, I'm very happy to talk about because it really helps you to speed up your digital transformation because it is an easy to use tool. We expect, some of your organizations can leverage this product and can start putting out new business processes and new integration services in a few weeks and go, with a faster go to market. And it provides both inbound and outbound capabilities. I will talk about it in the subsequent slides, and we allow you to do that in a very secure way. And because it's custom .NET development, it gives you the flexibility to use any kind of interface. In some of the subsequent slides, I'll be talking about how can you use REST API, how can you use Kafka interfaces. And in the poll, I did notice that about 20% of our clients are planning to use microservices. So that's a very interesting result. So there is a lot of interest there, and many of them are experimenting or exploring microservices. But in addition to microservices, some of them may be keen to use the Kafka based system, which I'll talk about in the subsequent slides. So the beauty of the AIS product is that the flexibility in the kind of integration you can build it, and with all the with the familiar Microsoft .NET technology. That way you're able to leverage your existing developers to train them on AIS and start building cross-platform applications through which you can pull out data from ClearPath or push data into the ClearPath applications. So one of the key things is, as I talked about in the previous slide, is the reuse of existing assets. And there could be different types of assets. So one is about the ClearPath applications itself. We provide easy to use APIs that enable applications running in the .NET environment to go and call the libraries. Could be a COBOL library, could be an Algol library in the ClearPath environment. But in many cases, we have seen organizations not just want to access the applications. They also want to access files. So that's one of the strength in the the AIS product. It brings in multiple capabilities and multiple assets to be accessed and leveraged. So we also provide easy to use APIs that help applications running in a .NET environment to go and create, access, or update files in the ClearPath environment. And in addition, we also provide APIs which help you to initiate the transactions as well in the ClearPath environment. So as you can see, there are diverse assets, and all of them we provided in easy to use APIs. And most importantly, we provide a number of tools that make life easier for both ClearPath and the non-ClearPath developers alike. So our purpose is how do you bring in a new .NET developer, train them, and start building cross-platform applications leveraging the ClearPath assets. And this AIS technology also provides you a number of value-added capabilities that are optimized for various environments, be it the MCP or OS 2200. As an example, you can look at the various attributes associated with the file system, and there are many other value-added capabilities that we provide. So one of the things we have been very conscious about the AIS technologies. We really want to provide ease of use. When you're using AIS, we have always kept the developer in mind, and we have seen that a number of our organizations are using Visual Studio based development technology. So this product, since it uses the Visual Studio based and Microsoft technology, it provides an easy jump start for many of our developers. And our focus has always been how do you do cross-platform application development faster and quicker. And all the while, while we want you to enable you to do it faster and quicker, we want you to also ensure that you are still maintaining your security attributes for your ClearPath, and you're still able to retain your the traditional mission critical attributes of ClearPath, which is security, reliability, scalability, high availability, and all of that. So, and we want you to do that leveraging your existing tool set. So .NET developers and Microsoft developers are easy skill sets available in the market. So you would leverage them. And we also provide a number of tool sets. There are many tool sets available with AIS, with the AIS product. One of them is called as a libgen tool, which helps you to generate proxy code that helps you in the communication between the ClearPath and the Windows environment. And I'll talk a little bit in more detail about how you could use AIS in some of the scenarios. So in the next two slides, I'm going to talk about two scenarios, okay, and these are based on white papers that we have written, so that after reading, after going through this webinar, you can leverage some of these white papers to understand them in more detail. So let me get started with those. So what's the scenario context we are having here? So we are looking at two ClearPath. Here is a ClearPath banking application, which is consisting of two MCP transactions. It's supporting basically two transactions. One is a transfer, which helps to transfer the money from one account to another. And once that is done, then an alert is generated that tells what was the status of that fund transfer itself. Again, we use this kind of simple scenario because most of us have done online bank transfers, and we have also seen a number of our customers have also developed core banking applications which support similar this kind of capability, so that this is a scenario that most of the client organizations can correlate with. And in this particular scenario, as we see, it's AIS call in and call out capabilities are used for the ClearPath interaction with the external systems. So let's go through the first scenario, which is basically the transfer money. So in this case, we are looking at the steps 1 to 4, and this is typically an inbound scenario wherein there is an external, end user application. In this case, it's a Python application, which is an external application, which is trying to access a ClearPath application, and the ClearPath application is exposed as a microservice. So what does the end user application do? It goes and invokes the ClearPath application, which is exposed as a microservice, to initiate the fund transfer. And in this case, the AIS.NET application takes care of all the communication with the ClearPath, and it handles all the complexity, and it leverages a call-in stub to go ahead and initiate the ClearPath transaction. And once that is done, on the ClearPath side, the transaction is executed and fund is transferred from one to another. So as you can see, we have minimal impact to the ClearPath, and the AIS acts as a wonderful interface between the end user application and your ClearPath application, while leveraging the familiar Microsoft .NET technology. So once that is done, in this scenario we are showing that how does a customer, in this case the application, it wants to send an alert as an outbound, into, so that it wants to go ahead and invoke a third-party application, which is exposing, which it wants to go and invoke an email application which is exposed as a microservice. So how does that happen? So it basically happens by by sending the email alert. So again, here AIS does all the core interaction between the two, and in this case, the AIS service is invoked, which handles and goes and invokes a third-party application. Oops. Yeah, so in this case, it's basically leveraging the callout service, and the third-party application is invoked. So with that, we cover the first part of it. We have a similar scenario. In this case, just that, in this case, it's not going through a microservice, but rather it is going through a Kafka broker. But the scenario context predominantly remains the same. Again, this is based on a white paper which has more details on how this could be actually done, and it provides more details on the AIS product, as well as how to go about and execute it. So yes, so as you can see, the steps 1 to 5 kind of talk about the inbound, which I'll be talking about now, and steps 6 to 10 talk about the outbound part, which is a response part. And why did we use Kafka here? Because we have already seen a number of our clients already using Kafka. It is a very popular streaming platform. While it does provide messaging, it is much more than a messaging platform. It is a very powerful streaming platform. Many of the companies or organizations use Kafka kind of like a nervous system. Most of their communications happens through the Kafka for real-time streaming. So we believe Kafka is an important technology, and we are seeing a number of our customers beginning to use. And I know there's being a poll conducted as well to collect some feedback on that. So let's talk about the first one. So what happens? So in this case, like the similar previous scenario, there is this third-party end-user application, which wants to communicate with the ClearPath and basically wants to initiate the fund transfer. And in this case, the only difference is that rather than invoking a microservice, it goes and initiates a fund transfer by sending a message to the Kafka broker. And then we have the AIS.NET application, which has subscribed for a particular topic on the Kafka broker, pulls up the request and initiates the ClearPath transaction. And once that is done, based on the AIS interaction, the ClearPath transaction in this case is executed and the fund is transferred, from one account to another. In this slide, we are seeing a OS 2200 application, but it could be for an MCP as well. So in the previous scenario, again, we could be either an MCP system or the OS 2200 system could be used. So once the transfer has been done, in this, as part of this business context, we want to show how an alert could be sent, to the end user. And again, here we are leveraging, the capability of a third-party email application. In this case, it is communicating through a Kafka broker. So what is happening here is that the ClearPath application sends the email alert by invoking the AIS service. And again, AIS here handles, all the complexity. It basically, picks up, handles, interacts with the ClearPath application. It constructs the Kafka message and again sends it across to the Kafka broker. And once it has gone to the Kafka broker, the end user application picks up the message and the email alert is sent to the user. So, that kind of illustrates, how AIS can play a key role in a microservices environment as well as interactions with Kafka. And as we can see, AIS handles all the complexity and interactions between the ClearPath system as well as the external third party. And what we want to do is we want the application developers to focus on their application logic rather the functional logic, and AIS to handle all the underlying complexity of communicating between the Windows system and the ClearPath system and providing an easy to use APIs for the communication purposes here. So, when we released 5.0 earlier this year, because digital transformation and microservices is a key initiative for most of our customers, we are, as a promotional offer, we are offering the product as a $0 license, so you can place an order without any additional cost. We believe this is a great opportunity for you to use in your microservice initiatives. So if you're interested, you can place a, contact your Unisys representative or email us at clearpathservices@unisys.com. So as I mentioned, we have 4 white papers, 2 covering the microservices and 2 covering Kafka. And again, because we are having my MCP and OS 2200, we have 1 targeted for each of these platforms. So in total, we have about 4 white papers. So when Bradley is circulating, these the links to the materials, he'll be sharing these white papers as well. But in addition to that, we have a number of other good collaterals as well, which are already available in the unisys.com website. With that, I complete the section on AIS, and I will hand it over to Bradley and Steve.
Thank you, Thanga. Welcome. My name is Steve Koss. I want to talk to you fairly quickly about ClearPath Forward services and how services can help you be more successful in this digital transformation, integration with microservices architecture, as well as some other things as well. So as you look at ClearPath Forward services, most people on this call probably used our product services to do software installations, upgrades, configurations. But that's not the only thing that Unisys offers in the way of services. We have a broad suite of offerings. More and more, we're seeing our clients want to do infrastructure management where they don't want to run a data center, especially in times like this. Let that be somebody else's problem. We do that a lot. Today, I want to focus on 2 other areas, and that's our application services and our advisory services. Application services are there to help you evolve your application. Do this digital transformation, do the microservices integration, help you in your development environment and help you manage that environment. And of course, the advisory services are really the start. That's, what is the right way to build this digital transformation architecture? What should we be doing? Now, the advisory services can be as complex as something like an appraisal service, where we'll sit down for a week with you, look at all of your business goals, look at the environment that you have today, and figure out a roadmap to get you to where you want to be. Plot it out, plan it out, and provide you back a roadmap to success. They could be as simple as something like consulting services, which is the right tool, ePortal or AIS, or one of the other technologies that you heard earlier mentioned when we kind of gave you that broad overview of digital transformation, like our Java interfaces might be the right choice for you. Or maybe you don't know where you really want to head with digital transformation. That's where innovation workshops can come in, where we'll spend a day and we'll do some brainstorming and we'll build business cases and an implementation roadmap, how to get you there. Okay, so really, advisory services are a good place to start to figure out where you want to go and what's going to be the best path. Once you know where you want to head, and maybe you already know, you have a defined set of cloud services you need to call, or you have a strategy for integration into your architecture, microservices architecture. You already know where you want to be. You already know what you want to do. Maybe you're currently an ePortal user and you're doing the inbound part. Now you want to do the outbound part. Application services can help you get there. One of the things that we find is people are always tight on resources. Critical things come up. Often these sort of enhancement projects, modernization projects often get pushed to the back burner and we don't get around to doing them. And that's where application services can help. We can do that implementation for you. We can train your people. We can even take over and fully run that part of your application as a managed service, where we take over all the responsibility, the support, everything, running that part of the environment, or even a whole application, build a new application. All of those things are possible with the application services. When we look at a little bit in depth with application services, what we've been talking about today when it comes to things like ePortal and AIS are the application evolution services. That's being able to do that sort of implementation to enhance the application, to transition the application, to be integrated in a web architecture, microservices architecture. We can also do development services where we're going to do not only the integration technology, but maybe write the COBOL application, enhance the COBOL application, or take over a COBOL application you might not have skills for anymore. Same with AB Suite, EAE, Algol, Fortran, MASM, etc. And we can manage the application. If we're going to provide that capability, we can take over all of the testing and support and the full managed services as well. Again, your option, your choice. If we look specifically today at ePortal and AIS, we've defined some services specifically for this microservices style architecture. The ePortal Inbound Web Services evolution service will help you learn how to expose or have us expose for you your ClearPath transactions so they can be called from a microservices architecture. And the ePortal Outbound Web Services are simply the opposite, where your existing application or maybe a brand new application can call out to this microservices or cloud services infrastructure. And of course, very similar things with AIS as well, where will either show you or do for you the capabilities of calling in and out of the system using AIS. Why should you look towards Unisys and ClearPath Forward services? We can help you through our proven methodology and our defined processes to build your digital transformation and integration strategy. We can help you drive that innovation through discussions and through implementation to make sure that it works right for you. And why are we the best at that? Well, we know ClearPath. We're the people that produce ClearPath. We're the people that produce those tools. We have in-depth knowledge, training, and deep integration with our R&D centers as well. So we can provide you end-to-end what you need to make sure you're successful in whatever your digital transformation needs are. So where do you go from here? Well, Thanga mentioned earlier the ClearPath services at unisys.com email. If you send an email to that email address, so either myself or someone on my team will get back to you and provide you the information or the assistance that you need on what comes next. You can do some research on your own by looking at the ClearPath Forward Services webpage, or even do a Google search. Start it with the word Unisys, and all of our documentation, all of our information is Google searchable. And most importantly, talk to your client executive. Okay, he or she can help you arrange discussions, arrange meetings, arrange assistance for your digital transformation needs. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Bradley.
Thanks, Steve. So everybody, thank you guys for joining today's call. We'll move into the question and answer session here. And just as a reminder, you can submit any Q&As or questions by using that Q&A tab at the bottom of your Zoom window. While we wait for some questions to come in, I just want to remind everybody that this session has been recorded, and in several days I'll be distributing the recording as well as a listing of pertinent content to all the attendees here. So if you miss a link or a document specifically, you'll get all that information in an email to follow here. Additionally, we offer a wide range of solutions. So in addition to ePortal and AIS, a whole host of others that can help you connect with Java, .NET, and message queuing. And Steve mentioned some services just now that could also help identify the right technology to leverage wherever you're at in your digital transformation. But just to recap, today you've learned how microservices is one of the technologies that are really enabling the need for digital transformation. You've learned that microservices really compartmentalize those huge monolithic applications to break them down into smaller components so that you can start realizing all those the manageability, the scalability, agility, all those E's, right? But ultimately, it helps you. Microservices help you deliver differentiated feature content that can really beat your competition to the market, just due to the architecture there. And then we showcased a couple of new capabilities in our solutions, ePortal and AIS, and outlined some services which could really drastically reduce your time to embrace digital transformation. And we do that through integration, we do that through simplicity, and then we do that through automation as well. So as you continue to deploy microservices to gain all the benefits, I really encourage you to reach out to your Unisys account manager or client executive, and working with them, they can further illustrate how Unisys can support all of your digital transformation needs. All right. All right, so I see we've gotten one question coming here. How does ePortal capabilities and component enabler capabilities compare to each other, if they do? Can you elaborate a bit on how you provide service authentication and authorization of services that are exposed via ePortal, things like OAuth, token handling, etc. And then I see Anil has provided a response. ePortal for calling into EIE or AB Suite applications uses component enabler, but provides a more fully featured and automated building environment for designing the web service or presentation. It also provides a management and clustering environment for scalability on top. With ePortal 10.0, we provide capabilities for using common authorization and authentication schemes with generated web services, including OAuth 2, API keys, web tokens, and etc. All done via .NET, core web APIs, and policy-based authorization. You may also have some questions about how you can collaborate with some other clients that are using some of these technologies today. And it's really a two-part answer. The first answer, you can go to unisys.com/our clients. That's a repository of all Unisys client references, and that will really showcase not only the types of companies and our clients who are using our technology, but more importantly, the benefits that they're gaining from them. So that's the first piece. And then the second piece, Unisys actually has a user group, and that's called Unite. And you can find out you can join, become a member of that group and find out more information about all the events and conferences going on by going to www.unite.org. So another mechanism to stay up to date with what clients are doing around some of our technologies. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll close the session for today. So thank you for joining, and stay tuned for we have some magical webinars coming up in next month here. So stay tuned for some additional communications around that. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.